All right. Also, you will see a poll that I've pushed out. If you're able to share that information with us, we'd love to just see feedback from the folks that are on the call with us. All right. So again, everybody, welcome to the 50 Strong Employer Connect series. I'm Candy Tillman. I know most of you, again, I just want to say thank you for giving us a little bit of your Thursday. The goal here is we really want to connect you directly and often to leading employers that are looking specifically for strong military veteran and military spouse talent. We are super excited to have a very special guest here with us today. But before we get into the content for today, let's just introduce everybody that is on the call really quickly. Kev, do you want to kick us off?
My name's Kevin Tillman. I was a veteran like yourself. Some of you are out, some of you are in school, some of you are active duty, but I got out in 2005. Guys still see me okay?
Yeah, they should see you.
Okay, we're mixing that up. Yeah, so one of the big reasons we're doing this, Candy and I, when we had met, I was in that transition period where I was kind of working odd jobs, but I did not have the experience, the understanding of the actual market. So, I finished up, I had my degree before going in over at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. It was a philosophy degree. So there wasn't a lot of people in my mind headhunting for philosophers unless you're looking for somebody to drink with, I guess. I played some minor league baseball, so I had some background in that. And I was in the over at Ranger Battalion for a while. And when I got out, I just assumed, oh yeah, I'll get a job. It's going to be fine. I'll act like an athlete and figure it out. And it was shocking how difficult it was to actually get a job. I just didn't understand. I didn't know how recruiters worked. I didn't understand the process that companies had. They all work a little bit differently. There's a ton of overlap, but I just didn't quite understand it. So I'd be talking to my wife, Candy, like, I really need to find a regular job. I kept using regular job. And she's like, what the hell's a regular job? I'm like, like a job where you show up and like they pay you and you get like healthcare and whatnot, and you work, versus I was so institutionalized for so long. I just didn't quite get it. Luckily she'd been in the corporate world for such a long time. She was able to kind of coach me through the process. I ended up getting on with Lockheed Martin. I was there for about 5.5 years, then went on to Dell doing their on their enterprise deployment team. And eventually I've got my own little IT company. But it was the part we're really trying to solve, and what kind of gets myself and Candy excited is to help kind of prevent just that pit in your stomach when you're trying to transition. And it's very difficult. So having guys like Kevin on the call can help bridge that gap. And then, with these following calls with the companies, directly figuring out who are these people, what is their process, and just going directly to the horse's mouth, getting connections. So anyway, that's kind of where we're starting. It's a little bit long background, but really excited everybody has taken the time to join this call and get some good insight from Candy and from Kevin. So thank you very much.
And Kevin, so Val Speltz, who's an awesome community partner, she just put, hi, I love this raw information being relayed to others. And I think that's really important. This is not rehearsed. This is not productionized. This is just us trying to share with you our network. And next up, I'd like if Whirity could just introduce himself. We're really here because we want to basically say hello, tell you a little bit about our story, and then frankly get out of the way so that you can hear some really good content. So Kevin, do you mind to just quickly say hello, and then I will share a little bit about 50 Strong and then turn it back over to you.
Perfect, absolutely. Thank you, Candy. And thank you, Kevin. For all you out there, I'm Kevin Whirity. I'm a Navy veteran. I reside in Jacksonville, Florida, with my wife and 3 kids. Born and raised, though, in Chicago. Love all things Chicago sports except the White Sox. Here today, while I work for Deloitte, I really do want to remove Deloitte from the conversation and just speak clearly, directly, veterans to veterans, and absolutely everything is going to be on the table. So I appreciate and thank you for having me. And Candy, I'll pass it back over to you.
Awesome. So everybody, again, I just want to say a big, huge welcome. Again, time is critical, and so we appreciate you all for being here. I also would like to welcome you on behalf of our university partners. The work that we're doing is not possible except for the support and collaboration of our university partners. Those are the University of Arizona, the University of South Florida, Texas A&M University System, and the University of South Carolina. I know that we have some folks on the call today that are either at those schools attending, working at those schools, or considering going to those schools. So please know that these university partners are absolutely critically involved in supporting everybody's career readiness. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to our employer sponsors. So these are sponsors that have leaned into this entire series, which is 15 weeks of career support during this fall. So thank you to ADP, Amazon, Tech Systems. Huge news I just got, Deloitte has also just jumped in as a series sponsor. So thank you, Kevin, for sharing that. You'll be seeing more on that soon. But again, as Kevin said, navigating civilian employment can be really complicated, especially if you're used to military norms. Really what we just want to do is to help provide a warm connection and direct exposure to those in industry that can help you navigate it. Kevin talked a little bit about his story. My background is almost 20 years in corporate, so Procter & Gamble, Oracle, SAP, some really big companies. I don't know, I jumped face first into the veteran services space about 2.5 years ago because in addition to my own husband's story, I was hearing from lots of other service members and veterans that had a similar kind of difficult employment journey. And so basically I wanted to go learn. And I went to work in a congressional office. And what I'll share with you is when I jumped into the veteran services space, nobody cared that I had 20 years of corporate experience doing strategy and sales and marketing. And so in some ways I can understand a little bit about how changing industries and changing careers, kind of at a middle stage of our lives can be really difficult. And it certainly, I did have to take a whole bunch of steps back, but I was able to quickly translate all the knowledge that I had and then apply it to a new area. So again, just a little bit about us. And, again, what I want you to know is all of our employer partners actively seek your skills, and many of them have resource specific military pathways. But here's the thing, maybe you don't want to work for any of them. Totally fine. What we're hoping is that the exposure, the language that they're hearing, the messages that they're delivering can help you in your own search. Again, a huge thank you to our university partners. I want to also point out here a couple of our strategic partners. We collaborate closely with Whirity. Whirity is a digital mentoring tool that you can opt into as many mentors as you need on demand for your industry. There are other mentoring tools. This is just the one that I really like. Again, find the one that's right for you that helps you connect directly to industry. We also work closely with the team over at VetTix. Engagement is really critical. And I also work really closely with the DoD SkillBridge office. A little bit about these sessions, the 50 Strong Employer Connect. Again, for those of you that are new, it looks like on the poll, about 70% of you, this is your first time joining. So again, welcome. We do these every week. There are new employers and new topics every single week. You can join us live, but if you can't join us live for whatever reason, we put the replays on our website. They are, again, not edited. So they're just there, but the goal is we want to share the content. We want to be inclusive. And so we put it out there every week. So again, the replays are all available from our first session, which also included a quick session around leveraging LinkedIn. It included a welcome from our university partners, and it also included a welcome from VetTix and Veterati. Last week, we had the Amazon Military Affairs team on. Super cool to hear from Bo and Elisa and Jen about some new pathways that they have. If you missed that session last week, you can check out the replay on our website. Although I want you to know that the Amazon Military Affairs team does weekly virtual sessions, and that is kind of the first start if anybody is interested in employment at Amazon. So definitely check out their weekly sessions. Our upcoming sessions. Next week, we are going to be focusing all on DoD SkillBridge. We are super excited for this one. I see DoD SkillBridge as one of the most critical things that service members can do when they transition out. So next week, we're going to have Boris Kuhn, who leads DoD SkillBridge credentialing. And then we're going to have, as you can see, some really awesome employers that are all advancing forward to open up more SkillBridge roles. So join us next week for that. The following week, we're going to have an employer meet and greet with Microsoft and Tech Systems. This one's going to be super cool. I just found out today we're giving away an Xbox. So please join us for that. We're going to specifically be highlighting some new student veteran pathways that they both have. And stay tuned. I'm working October through December now on upcoming sessions and finalizing those. So, oh yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Before Kev jumps on, just from a DoD SkillBridge perspective, I don't know if everybody knows what it is, but it's specifically for those that are active duty. So
that's right.
If you're active duty, that's really critical, because I didn't think about transitioning until about 2 years after I got out of the military. But this, if your command will let you, they can let you leave early. You're still being paid, but you can actually work and learn from these companies. So
thank you. Yeah.
If you're an active duty person, it'll be a good one for you.
So by the way, one of the things I mentioned before is I work in the space all day, every day. And sometimes I forget that other people don't work in the space all day, every day. And so my husband is, thank you, Kevin, for mentioning and just kind of sharing that. DoD SkillBridge is for active duty service members up to their last 6 months of active duty to go do an apprenticeship, an internship, some kind of training. So if you are currently active duty, please definitely join us next week for that session. Awesome. Okay, so if for those of you, for the 30% of you, I think that were here for the first two sessions, both of those sessions were jam-packed with content. And there was a little bit of time for Q&A, but frankly, not as much as we would have liked. So today, we're specifically gonna roll it back just a little bit and slow it down because Kevin is absolutely the right person to just have some Q&A with. We encourage you to use the Q&A box. So there's two boxes that you'll see. Let me advance. There's two boxes that you'll see on your screen. The first one is the chat box. I encourage you, take advantage of this. I see some of you already putting in your LinkedIn URLs for that. I'll do the same. I encourage everybody to use that chat box to connect with others that are on the line. If you want to send messages to me and Kevin only during the session, please use the Q&A box. So husband Kevin and I are happy to answer questions. However, really, this is really a time for you to ask Kevin Whirity questions based on just things that you might be experiencing or going through. So again, please use those two boxes. Husband Kevin and I will keep an eye on those while Kevin is talking. But again, I just encourage everybody to interact as much as possible. All right, so with that, Kevin, while you're pulling up your screen, I wanted to share a little bit about the first time that you and I met. And Kevin, again, is the military and veteran talent lead at Deloitte. About a year and a half ago, about something like this.
Yeah.
Kevin came out to Arizona to deliver Deloitte's core fundamentals training. And I have now sat through 5 sessions of the Deloitte core fundamentals training. And of everything that I've seen working full time for the last 2.5 years in the veteran services space, the training that Deloitte does is phenomenal. And so while this is not Deloitte core fundamentals training, the insight that I know that Kevin has, some of that will come through, and you guys will get to take advantage of that as you're listening to some of his answers to your questions. So Kevin, we are thrilled to have you here. And at this point, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Candy. And it's great to be teaming up and collaborating to help veterans again. As Candy mentioned, the core program is great. If you want to Google that or hit me up afterwards, the learning and development team that puts that on it's first class. So I'm happy to connect you. We're delivering it virtually these days, but we'll be back live again, hopefully in early 2021. So, why are we here? I mentioned I was going to take my Deloitte hat off, and I'm going to keep it off. If anybody wants to ask a specific question, I'm happy to entertain that as well. But being someone that's inside the corporate HR world, I thought it would be selfish of me not to share some of the cliff notes and exposure that I have behind, as I like how Candy put it, what's behind the black curtain, right, when we apply. I did 6 years on active duty, and when I was getting out in 2009, I think I applied, and I would bet on it, more than anyone across the country for a role. And I had friends and I had family members, and I would send them my resume, the job number, and say, hey, please apply to that. I got to knock out a couple interviews or talking, and I want to keep applying. And it was complete spaghetti at the wall. I thought there was going to be strength in numbers, strength in volume, and hey, that city looks interesting to me, and it's got a veteran 10-point preference, apply, right? There was no strategy. There was no vision, nor did I know what was happening behind the HR technology systems. Being fast forward 10 years, being in corporate America, leading HR teams, leading recruiting teams, and now specifically in my job, I lead our veteran recruiting team. I want to share with you what every company in corporate America, how they're operating and how you get on active duty in the corporate world. We know where to go, and we know what pipelines will get us to the military. What I want to show you, and I only have one slide, and this is the only slide we have. There's 3 pipelines that you can get picked up into corporate. And I'm going to start with the first one, which is campus. And what we're going to break down here are a few things, right? We're always going to talk about what is the HR person looking for, what are their key critical success factors, and those are what you're seeing inside the funnel. We're also going to talk about timeline and what timeline they operate off of. And lastly, where are they going to put you inside their firm at the bottom of that funnel? So let's talk about campus recruiting. For all you students that are out there, right now is the season. Labor Day just kicked off the campus recruiting season for corporate America. And they're all going to open up their student careers on their career page. Their campus recruiters are going to start hosting things this year. Clearly, they'll probably be hosting it virtual. But they are going to be targeting students at specific universities at a certain degree level, year in school, I should say, that are getting a certain major. They're going to look at your major, they're going to look at your GPA, and they're going to look at sometimes test scores, GMAT, ACT, SAT. They'll look at all kinds of things. Now, they'll leave their applications open usually up until early November. They usually close right around before the holidays, and they start the interview process in November, December, January, and they're extending and concluding all their offer process by about February. So you will know through the campus recruiting lens if you have an offer to start with a company by early spring. Now, depending what year in school you are, if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or a first-year advanced degree student, you're most likely going to be applying for an internship with the company. If you're in your graduating year, you're applying for a full-time role. Every corporation across corporate America, they all have their handful of schools that they go to. And they all have their kind of bucket list of what they call non-target schools. So you may be interested in a company, and I love to drink Coke, and I always use Coca-Cola as an example. You may be interested in Coca-Cola, and you may be at Coca-Cola school, but maybe you're not getting the right major for what they're looking for that year. Or maybe you're not at a target school that Coca-Cola is targeting. That does not necessarily mean you can't get picked up by Coca-Cola's campus recruiting team. It just means you're going to have a more uphill battle than the individual that is at the target school getting the target major with the right GPA and the right test scores. And how you can still navigate that campus recruiting system is, and we're always going to default, 3 times we'll default to the far right, to the referral machine. You can go out and you can make connections with individuals at Coca-Cola. You can have 15, 20-minute coffee chats over Zoom, impress them through an informal conversation, and continue to grow your network. And it sounds like Bo led you all through some great LinkedIn networking techniques. And you guys can build your boardroom inside Coca-Cola. And you can let those individuals know at Coca-Cola that, hey, I am at this school getting this major. While you're targeting finance, I'm getting marketing, but I would be interested. And you can let your boardroom inside Coca-Cola go to bat for you. So before I jump over to the experienced hire bucket, I'm going to pause because I know there's a lot of students out there. I want to talk about this campus recruiting pipeline and see what initial questions, thoughts, comments we may have. Kevin, are you seeing anything on the board yet?
Not specific to that. There are 2 questions, Q&A questions. Well, one of them is related from Mr. Manning, dealing with if you don't have a degree, but that's probably the experience hire. That's probably bucket number 2 for you. That'd be correct.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when we go through this, there's going to be many of you in the audience that you're not going to be matching any one of these 3 filters. I was in that boat. I lived that world. It is okay. It is okay that you do not match a specific filter. And I'll touch on that towards the end. But for all of you that may be nervous and be like, oh no, wait a minute, I'm at the wrong school, or I'm done with school, all's going to be good. So what we want to do is go piecemeal here, one by one. And I promise you, there's a way into corporate, even if you're not seeing yourself fit an exact fit here.
Hey, Kevin, Gemma Lee just asked, I think what's a really good question. How does an online MBA differ from the traditional campus recruiting process?
Yeah, and a lot of corporations will include the online or the executive or the part-time MBA, and some of them don't. They only go to the full-time. It will vary and depend by employer, and sometimes the department with inside the employer. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's stick with Coca-Cola, and maybe you want to go into their marketing department, and their marketing team goes after a full-time MBA. Maybe Coca-Cola's supply chain logistics team, they will hire a part-time or online master's in XYZ. So it really will truly depend what department inside the company, what their talent acquisition or campus recruiting strategy is. So at the end of the day, the difference between the online and the full-time, I would say the full-time is going to open more windows, and the online will be a little bit more limited in scope on who's recruiting directly off campus for it.
Cool.
And I'll talk about that a little bit more too, right? So I got my MBA from Loyola Chicago. Not the same companies go pull from Loyola Chicago that do down the street at at Northwestern at Kellogg, or GSB at the University of Chicago. Same, or DePaul. All four of those, right? Same textbooks. My Navy buddies were getting the exact same MBA by the same authors of the same books, and we figured it out after about 3 weeks, and we started all sharing, right? One guy was at Chicago, one guy was at Kellogg, and I was at Loyola, and we staggered so we could lower the cost of our books. On the back end, though, right, you got a different brand coming out of Loyola, Chicago, and Kellogg. You have a different network, and you got different companies that come in there and pull there from every year. So what we learned is, when we went to our career day and started talking about what companies were there, we realized that completely different industries, completely different recruiters, and completely different companies were going to these 3 different schools, 4 schools when you count DePaul. And all of us were first-year MBAs, looking for employment or looking at interns or looking, just what was out there. So I would say, again, the online or part-time, it just, your school and the type of degree you're getting is going to open windows to different employers that are investing in that annually.
Awesome.
The experience, go ahead.
We have a question about, David's asking, can we double dip? I'm an MBA candidate and a veteran. Which bucket is more applicable? Yeah,
great question. Kind of jumping ahead, stealing a little of my thunder, David, but I'm kidding. Campus trumps the other. So I don't know, got any spade or card players out there. Campus is your trump card. Campus gets first dibs. Why does campus get first dibs? Campus is extending their offers early in the process. So if you look at that cadence, 1 to 3 years in advance, you're going to have your offer in hand. They're going to get the students and they're taking them out of the market and they're giving them their offer and say, hey, here's your offer. You're going to graduate in 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be, however far in advance they locked you down. That's why campus gets first dibs. They can extend, they have the corporations have a head count assigned to a number based on graduation years. So for example, Deloitte knows how many people we have are going to start at the company in 2021, 2022, and 2023 based on offers we already have outstanding. Because we know every year we want to bring in junior level resources from undergrad or more mid-tier talent from advanced degree schools. We'll assign that head count. And if you're a student and HR gets you, they know they got to first check with their campus recruiting teams. If you don't match what campus recruiting has, then they'll pass you off over to the experienced hire or the veteran recruiting bucket and allow them to work with you. So that could be a good segue going to our middle bucket, right? Let's just say you don't match the campus bucket, or you do match the campus bucket, but you don't like where they're going to put you on the back end. What do I mean by that? I mentioned the last thing we're going to talk about in each filter is talk to the recruiters, right? If you're at University of South Florida right now and you're sitting in Tampa and Coca-Cola is going to give you an offer, what if they're going to give you an offer to join their marketing team? And that's nowhere near where you want to be, right? So now what do, right? Do you take that, that's in the eye of the beholder, but you want to ask that question. Where are your South Florida students that come into Coca-Cola? Where are you pumping us into? Where are we going to go? And maybe you like it and you take the offer. Maybe you don't, or maybe you don't match campus. You can begin to look at Coca-Cola's other channels, right? So they have an experienced hire team, and the experienced hire is exactly what it sounds. You have the experience. I want to hire you. That's it. Experience equals hire. Here's the bad news. Us veterans, 9 times out of 10, don't have the experience what the traditional corporate recruiter is looking for. And the same would hold true if someone in the civilian sector, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, tried to apply to our roles and we had no boot camp. Imagine there was no boot camp in the military and you had to hire somebody on Friday and say, show up on Monday, be ready to go. That's basically what corporations asking us to do, right? If you don't have the exact experience in that department and they're not going to train you, they're not going to groom you, they're not going to put you through their boot camp. So if you match exactly what they need, it's an easy day and you're probably getting hit up on LinkedIn and recruiters are probably seeking you out. And you're probably like, wait a minute, why are they hitting me up? You probably match exactly what that experienced hire recruiter needs. What are some of those roles? Cyber comes to mind right out of the gate. You got a cyber background, clearance, high-level clearance jobs. They'll probably say, hey, we'll invest in you for your clearance and train you up. IT, technology, general operations. So there are a handful. I don't want to, paint a bleak picture, but there are a handful of experienced hire corporate roles that no training is needed. They can hire you on Monday and you're ready to go. Now, this experienced hire bucket, this is a little bit closer to your EAS. This is a very fast-paced, heavy crunch. Hey, I have an open position. I'm the HR recruiter. My job depends on me filling it ASAP and making my client, i.e. the hiring manager, happy. So the phone rings, HR answers the phone. Please open this experienced hire role, which requires 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, whatever it may be, this level of degree, this level of certifications, this type of technical skills. Fill it. They're trying to fill that thing like yesterday. Usually it takes corporations about 60 to 90 days to fill their roles, to get through posting it. You got to have it open for so long. You got a phone interview, then you got to finish, in-person interviews. Then you got to extend an offer and negotiate the offer. And then you got to give them 2 to 3 weeks for your HR systems to get everything set before they can start you. So in many corporations, if you're going through the experienced hire process, it's going to take about 5 to 6 weeks minimum to go through the process with a delayed start, getting you to that about 60, 90-day turnaround time frame. You'll know exactly what you're competing for from day one, because when they open the position, if they're talking to you and you match it, they're going to say, hey, you're a cyber player. We have a cyber role. Let's interview for cyber. So you're going to know what department, what role, when you would start, what the travel would be, what geo it's in, what the benefits are. Everything's going to be clean cut, and they're going to pump you through that system very, very quickly. I'm going to pause there, see what questions may linger around the experienced hire role.
Kevin, there's one question that might also be a segue, but I don't want to rush it if so. But the question is, I'm curious, this is from Steve. I'm curious if we decide whether we want to pursue the experience track or the veteran track.
Yep, it is a great segue. And the experienced hire bucket, right? If you match it, that recruiter is going to be talking to you. I would say, to answer that question directly, figure out where the veteran recruiting bucket's going to put you. And it could be in a more ideal position, or it could not. So one in the hand, two in the bush, right? If you're talking to an experienced hire recruiter and they have something they're talking to you about, you match what they have, you're competitive, they're putting you in the interview process, you know what that role is. Ask yourself if you like that role and do you want to go compete for it. If you're comparing that and contrasting it against another channel with the same company, let's say Coca-Cola again, hey, you're a cyber guy, cyber recruiter at Coca-Cola calls you. Do you want that role, or then do you want what's behind door number 3, which could be Coca-Cola's veteran recruiter, right? Someone like me that's going to call you, and then they're going to communicate X, Y, Z. And here's what the veteran recruiter is probably going to offer you, or they're probably going to be communicating. I am a hybrid of campus recruiting and experienced hire. What do I mean by that? The veteran recruiting teams in corporate America, why they were created was, all right, what happens to the veteran that's done with school and missed our campus bucket and didn't apply between Labor Day and Thanksgiving and missed all of our roles? Still getting the degree, still shit hot. We love them. Great school, great degree. How do I go get them? Well, campus recruiting's out of slots. All right, well, let's call our experienced hire recruiter. Well, that's great. That veteran's got 5 years of operational experience and he's just completing his 4-year degree at Arizona. that 5 years of experience doesn't match my job description. Sorry, the experienced hire recruiter says, I got nowhere to put them. So companies said, we're missing out on some phenomenal talent because we're getting in our own way with our processes. No more of that. So let's create a veteran recruiting bucket, which is, I'm a baseball guy, Kevin will probably appreciate this, a utility infielder, right? A best athlete. They're 80% there against our traditional roles. But what if we had a boot camp, or what if we had some robust onboarding, whether it's 1 week or 12 weeks, to shore them up on the missing 15 to 20% so we can really tap into that 80% that we love about their background. And that's what the veteran recruiting bucket is. And that's what everybody has stood up to some degree. Now, a little bit of the bad news on the veteran recruiting bucket. The veteran recruiting bucket in every company, they don't look at every single rank, every single level, every single MOS. They know what type of veteran background is going to work phenomenally in their culture and their world, right? And they're going to know, ballpark years of experience, ballpark clearance needed, majors needed, certifications, and many of them can touch, like Deloitte, many of them can touch so many different levels and so many years of service. But where they're going to train you up and groom you based on that is going to determine where they're going to put you on the back end of the filter, right? So there's always a little bit of that, where in the company are these programs going to put you? So if you're a student and maybe you're not going to match somebody's campus recruiting machine, maybe you don't fit the experienced hire bucket and you're 0 for 2 right now, and we're going on our third strike, and you're talking to Coca-Cola now, to their veteran recruiting team, because you don't match the first 2 funnels. That veteran recruiter is going to be able to articulate to you, hey, I can give you an offer this far in advance away from your EAS. You're going to start in this city. You're going to travel this amount. You're going to be in this department of Coca-Cola. We're going to train you for this amount of weeks. And this is going to be your onboarding with us. And this is going to be your year 1, and where we would see you probably 2, 3, 5 years down the road. They're going to be able to articulate all that to you. The question you got to ask yourself is, do you like where that's going to put you in the short and long run? And also, do you match it, right? Deloitte had a veteran recruiting arm. I did not match it. I didn't have the right clearance level, nor did I have the right major in my undergrad. So I was not eligible to apply for Deloitte's veteran recruiting that month when I was getting out. 6 months later, I matched it, but I was already hired through the company through a completely different pipeline. I got hired through experienced hire. But what I'm getting at, and why I wanted to share that story, is the veteran recruiting machine at companies, it ebbs and flows over the 52-week period of what they're going to need. And that veteran recruiting team will be able to articulate that to you as well. Hey, right now we're looking for senior officers with 25 plus years of experience and a top secret clearance to put you in this niche department. Or, hey, I need a very junior 5-year veteran that is willing to get trained up and go through this type of robust onboarding around a technology platform such as called ServiceNow, right? Those are just 2 examples that I heard in the last 24 hours in my own company. And other companies are doing the same thing on where they're going to groom you up, where they're going to train you on. From a process standpoint, why I said a hybrid is, most veteran recruiting buckets are going to be able to lock you down somewhere around 6 months from your EAS. So probably not as far out. Some really good ones can go 12 months out and predict their workforce and lock down veterans 12 months in advance. So somewhat like campus, but they're not as short as that 30-day cycle with the experienced hire machine, which is, hey, I need to hire you like yesterday, let's go. You're probably going to get to operate in between 60 days and 12 months. A veteran recruiting program will be able to see within those types of windows. I'm going to pause. It's been a lot of information, 3 different pipelines. Before I get into the last piece, referrals, which will entertain anybody that doesn't fit any of the first three buckets. And I was one of those. Candy, is there anything pressing or hot on the Q&A board that you think is worth tackling right now?
Yeah, Kevin and I were just texting about this actually. There's a question. So you talked a lot about clearances. Question from Steve: is an expired TS SCI worth anything, or would it need to be active? Can you talk a little bit about past clearance, what that means, how somebody activates before they get out?
Yeah, if it's active, right, a little bit more value. A lot of roles, if you're going to get into the federal contracting game, or that industry that's really leaning cyber risk type space, that companies can really leverage the active clearance. There is value, right, to someone that has an inactive one versus someone that had no clearance ever. So to answer your question, as you kind of prioritize the level of value, active then inactive, an inactive candidate would trump somebody that's just never been background checked, no clearance had. You're going to get the recruiter's eye and hiring manager's attention. So there is a little bit of value there.
Kevin, just to add to that, because when I ended up working at Lockheed Martin, and it took a while to get my TS clearance, but to your point, even if it's inactive, they pay for all of that. The company pays for that, and it's expensive. At least when I went through it, I mean, whatever the numbers are, maybe it's $50,000, $75,000. So it's not cheap, and maybe they've streamlined it a little bit. But they don't always need it right away. They
Correct.
can hold you in other, a lot of, if they're asking for a clearance, that means they're a contractor. Those programs are generally pretty large. Lockheed, they have, those programs of record go on for a long time. Some are a little shorter. But yeah, that's the fact that you were in the military gives you effectively a clearance. It's like, I think at Ranger Battalion, I think they give you like a secret. I don't remember the details behind it. It's some, they make you feel cool with some sort of clearance, but that is, you may not even know you have a clearance, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on, as some of when you're doing things across the pond that they probably don't want you to, broadcast. So I think whether it's an implicit clearance or it's explicit clearance, you have a clearance. But having that and getting a job, even if it's lower, like I started at a entry level, but once you have that clearance, you are able to move around really well, because it's tough to get. I mean, it takes months and months. It took me a full year to get full TS, maybe 9 months or something like that. So anyway, but whether you have it or not, if you get out of the military, it'll be a lot easier for them because they have all that background on you already. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a supply demand game, right? If they got 3 candidates with an active TSSCI and yours is inactive, right, and all thing else holds true, they're going to be rolling and looking, at the other 3. Now, if they got nothing to compare it for, and they got a gentleman or a lady with an inactive TSSCI clearance and 3 people with no clearance ever before, who knows if they're going to pass it? They're going to start with the inactive clearance. So it's a supply demand game, and the HR team needs to, at any company, right, prioritize and work their way through the system of what's most likely and has the higher probability to being successful. And if success means having the active clearance, we hire plenty of people with an inactive clearance, house them somewhere else, get them to work, get them billable, and then we're working behind the scenes to get them cleared all the time, right? So absolutely an opportunity, absolutely value there. Yeah, I think we've covered down on that one.
Kevin, real quick before we move ahead, the 2 questions coming in. Number 1, where do military spouses fall into these categories is the first one. The second question, I'm guessing they have the same answer, so I'll go ahead and ask it. Do companies that have skill bridge opportunities, where does that fall in?
Yeah. Companies that are using SkillBridge falls in veteran recruiting, and military spouses falls in veteran recruiting. We actually rebranded ourselves at Deloitte from veteran recruiting to we're now called the Veteran and military affiliate. We're V and MA. We're all inclusive, even caregivers. Everybody is part now about our family. And we, military spouses, same thing, right? Because I had to move, because I had to relocate, I had to take a role, and maybe I was underemployed, and I took a position because it was in a city and it was available for the 2 years I was going to be there. I'm not finding myself, because of that, matching the exact experience, higher roles that I want to get into. They leverage the veteran and military affiliate family, because what companies are doing behind that third funnel that you're looking at again, they're implementing a boot camp and a robust onboarding program behind the scenes. And we train up military spouses just like we do veterans. So if you're a military spouse out there, you definitely want to be talking to the veteran recruiting arm to see if you can get into their hire to train strategies. We also pump a lot of military spouses into what we call at Deloitte. A lot of companies are doing this. It's called Encore. It's not designed for military or spouses. It's designed for individuals that have taken time off work to go do personal things for any rhyme or reason. But now they want to come back, and for their Encore, they want to start working again. And they've been out of the corporate world for however long. They just need to get reacclimated and tooled up on the latest operations. And we hire them, we train them, and then they're ready to go. A lot of military spouses like that program of ours. The DoD Skill Bridge, again, falls under vet recruiting. As Kevin mentioned and Candy mentioned out of the gate, this is rapidly growing. Here's why. If you were an employer and you were the CEO of a company and you could train someone for 12 weeks while they're on active duty and the military paid their paycheck, or B, you can hire the person and start paying their salary and train them for 12 weeks, where would you do it? Right? And companies are just like, their minds are blown. When you talk to CEOs, they're like, it's a no-brainer all day long. It is in our world. Now, what you can do in certain companies for the 12 weeks while you're still a DoD employee, it's going to be limited for conflict of interest. So like in Deloitte's world, or anybody that touches a federal contract, we can't be using DoD paid personnel to solve problems. So we'll use you or train you in a different way during your 12 weeks. And that holds true for many other companies. But you're going to see that rapidly grow, especially because the roles in corporate America are going to change post-COVID. Technology is going to innovate. It's going to even a rapid, more accelerated pace. There's going to be a shortage of supply of talent that know how to utilize what corporate's using. And they're going to lean into the veteran space and they're going to train you up. So there's going to be a lot of technology training boot camps, Salesforce, ServiceNow, SAP, Oracle, Workday, all doing it right now, just in AWS. Those are 6 that I know exist today. And come 6 months from now, there's going to be another 6. So that DoD Skill Bridge will fall. Sorry to go on a tangent, Candy, but that DoD Skill Bridge.
I'm all in on DoD Skill Bridge.
Yeah, that'll fall into the veteran recruiting team.
Yep. We have a question. How do we find veteran recruiting teams? Guys, this is one of the key reasons that we started the 50 Strong Employer Connect series. And so literally I work every day with folks just like Kevin that are at amazing companies, and they are all going to be filtering in and out. That is just one way. You can also find them on LinkedIn. Many of them are very visible. They're working with some of the key veteran service organizations that you guys are probably familiar with. And Kevin, I may also be leading into your next step, but I want you guys to all know that many large companies actively have veteran recruiting teams that are working really hard to find new ways of connecting.
1000%. Yeah, it's like you can eerily see my notes. You did lead right into the green bucket and what I call the fun bucket. It is the #1 hiring source for every company in America is a referral. There's no other source that beats referrals in any company. Some numbers are astonishing. I've heard companies quote 70% of their hires come from referrals. I think Deloitte, please don't quote me on this. I want to say we're 40% of our hires come through referrals. So it's a significant bogey. how do you find veteran recruiters? You can hit the company and put military recruiter. LinkedIn is going to find you the individual. Here's what's going to happen though. I'd say do it. It's worth it. Go ahead. I have close to, I don't know, I'm coming up on 10,000, I want to say, connections. I'm somewhere very high. The odds that a recruiter is going to reply to your LinkedIn message are very low, just based on sheer volume. They have to tackle their inbox first. So for the 70 folks out there, I apologize if you have something in my LinkedIn message box. I'll make sure I share my Deloitte email, and Candy can get that to you, and I'll rapidly reply there. What I'm getting at, why I'm kind of harping on that, is you want to navigate around HR in all three of these channels. Before you talk to the campus recruiter, an experienced hire recruiter, or a veteran recruiter, you want to go network with somebody in the business that is doing the work that you want to do. So if you're trying to do marketing at Coca-Cola, go find a veteran in marketing in Coca-Cola. There's no veteran in marketing, just find a veteran in Coca-Cola. Talk to 2 or 3 veterans in Coca-Cola and let them all give you a referral into a name of somebody that's in marketing that's a non-veteran. And then get 2 names from that person and 2 names from that person. And when you're comfortable enough that you know all the lingo, all the acronyms, you know Coca-Cola, you know the marketing team, that is when you say, mass email to your Coca-Cola boardroom, hey, here's the position in marketing that opened, or hey, there's nothing open yet. Can you at least get me atop their radar? Now you got 6, 7 people in Coca-Cola hitting up the marketing recruiter of Coca-Cola in the veteran recruiting. When I'm in Deloitte's world and someone hits me, 6 people hit me with a veteran that all talk to all of them and they all like him or her, they're number 1. As soon as a role opens for my need, they got the first seat. If I have 6 or 7 people that work for our company saying he or she's going to crush it, I don't even have to spend my 30 minutes, right? And as a recruiter, I have what they call, I've got top cover. It's a freebie for me. When I send that person to the seat at the interview table, it's no longer just Kevin Whirty's name stamped on their back that is backing them. It is the 7 people that work at Deloitte that I can lean on and say, these 7 people networked and they all have this person's back. And if it don't go well at the interview table, the HR person is not the only one on the rope, right? So think about that. That's what HR has to battle. That's what keeps HR employed, is every time an HR person sends a candidate to the final interview table, their job's a little bit on the line. Their reputation's on reputation, their credibility, all that good stuff's on the line. So they're your cheerleader. HR is going to turn from a screener to figuring out if you're going to be a good fit to your biggest advocate when you get a seat at that interview table. So use that referral machine. LinkedIn, best source out there, hands down, best platform, very pinpointed, very niche. You can find anybody in any company based on any background. They're going to be on there, and people will say yes. People will say yes. Reach out to the people that are doing the work. Here's a couple reasons you're going to have a higher return rate. There's less transitioning veterans reaching out to practitioners in Deloitte that do the work than there are of those reaching out to the HR people. HR, their LinkedIn count, look at it this way, it's a one-way street, selfishly. HR uses LinkedIn to pump out and forecast communication and news. They don't have the bandwidth to use it as an intake mechanism. They just can't handle the inbound traffic. Most HR recruiters want to have a very high LinkedIn account for connections. So when they do have a role, it hits and broadcasts out, and then the people will go apply to that position. So, that's a little in and out on how HR is using LinkedIn and how you can navigate around that. And
Kevin, to your point about searching for people that work in the business functions at companies that may also be veterans, in case it is helpful, our very first session, our kickoff session, I gave I walked through how to use search, templates for LinkedIn messages that you might send in order to get an informational interview, and even a referral. So check that out in case it's helpful. And I'm just looking at the Q&A box. Yeah.
There's quite a few questions on the skill bridge, just pointing out that next week we'll have the guy in charge of skill bridge of the DoD will be on, along with a lot of the major companies that are directly connected to the skill bridge. And one of the misnomers, which Candy can talk to at length, is the hiring our heroes, which is really good. They're not the only ones, and I don't know how they communicate that out in TAPS. But you don't need to go through hiring our heroes, even though it's a really good program, but there's other avenues. And I think next week, Candy, if you want to address that.
Listen, first of all, I love that there's so much interest in SkillBridge. It is phenomenal. And I, will echo what Kevin said. I have been, in probably 20 conversations with Fortune 500 companies in the last 2 weeks that are actively thinking about how they advance SkillBridge. That is so awesome. Hiring our heroes, I see a couple of questions there, is an awesome program. It's run by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Kevin, I think you guys do SkillBridge through Hiring Our Heroes. Is that right?
We do, yes.
Okay. So it is a great program. If you can apply and the cohort timing fits your needs, phenomenal. They now also have remote cohorts as of earlier this year, I think. But it is one of about 350 plus approved SkillBridge providers. And so what I tell people, and one of the reasons that we're doing the session next week is there are lots of options open every door. And there's lots of ways to leverage SkillBridge. The most important thing is that people are leveraging it before they're 6 months, because it does take some time to find the right program and to get placed and that kind of thing.
Thank you.
So the last point that I'll add on top of the referral machine, once you kind of have your base, right, of people that you talk to at a company, I talked a little bit about it, but I'm going to double tap on how powerful that is when the referral team comes back over to one of the 3 pipelines, right? When the referral team comes over to the campus recruiter, or the referral team hits up the experienced hire recruiter, that level of credibility and due diligence that has already taken place is a time saver to that individual HR employee that has nothing else but just a resume database to look at. So you're helping the HR employee out by you taking the self-initiative to go through the screening process with their practitioners. So the people that you reach out to on LinkedIn are the same people that the recruiter would have to call and get on their email and Outlook calendar and say, hey, can you spend 30 minutes to phone screen these 3 candidates? You're already doing that when you're doing the informal coffee chats. And when you get their backing, that's where the corporate HR person is like, wow, this is great. And that's why you're getting bumped to the top of the list. You just saved them a lot of emails, a lot of coordination to get to the end state that they needed. And that end state is, would you be a good fit? Would you be a good employee here? We got to go through some initial screening before I give you a final seat at the interview table. So you're taking some legwork off the recruiter, and they like that. And that's why you're seeing such high throughput, and that being the #1 source in corporate. So Candy, nothing here was like earth shattering, right? This isn't going to change what company you're going to apply to. This isn't going to change what department or role you like. Why I'm sharing this is now you can show empathy when you're talking to a corporate recruiter, whether they're in the campus bucket, right? You know what they're up against. Hey, you guys are open in the fall, you're closing, you got to get these offers out. You're looking at these different parameters of success. Here's why I'm good for you. Or the experienced hire recruiter. Hey, I know you got to fill this and your job depends on filling it quickly. And I have what you need, and you're going to be, you're cut to the chase very quickly. Or you're talking to the veteran recruiting team, right? You can show empathy of, hey, I know maybe your program's not going to start for 6 months. Or, hey, what type of veteran are you looking for? When you demonstrate this level of understanding, it's going to help you navigate these channels a little bit more efficiently. You'll know which ones you're eligible for, which ones maybe you got an uphill battle, but you'll know where you stand and you'll know which one's operating on what type of time frame. And that will just help you differentiate yourself from other candidates that are really just going and attacking that blindly. The last thing I'll say is never, ever apply online. If you ever apply online, you're wrong. Please, 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 please go to the referrals and let the referral at that company apply you to the position that you're interested in. It will get you to the top of the list way quicker and much more efficiently than if you're just hitting the button online.
You may then be asked to apply online, right, Kevin?
Yeah, the best scenarios that I love to hear is the recruiter wants to give the candidate their offer and start them, and they're like, wait a minute, they haven't even filled out an application. That is awesome. That means you did it right. You impressed everybody. You went to the head of the class. You talked to the principal. You came out of the principal's office with an offer, and now their admin needs to get you the paperwork. That's the way to do it. Otherwise, you don't get caught up in the application system. Eventually, you're going to have to do it. But yeah.
You know, I really appreciate what you said about showing empathy to recruiters. And what I will share with everybody on the call is, you know, husband Kevin mentioned the pit in your stomach when you're searching for a job. What I will share, as I have the honor of working across lots of veterinary recruiting teams at lots of amazing organizations. And what I'll share is that they are working their asses off. They want to help place folks in really good jobs. And the other thing that I don't know if I think it might be a little bit unique, because most people on veteran military recruiting teams have some form of affiliation. And what I hear consistently is something like, Candy, I want to help people get into the right job. Maybe it's at my own company, but if not, they are collaborating to help figure out where can they put them or help them get to at a different company. And so I do think, you know, recruiters are, again, they are working their asses off right now and they are doing their best. And I think empathy of their situation. One question I was going to ask you, Kevin, is it appropriate for a job seeker? Like, how do you say, hey, what type of recruiter are you? Like, is that okay to ask?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the bigger the corporation that you're talking to, the more niche their role is going to be. The lower in volume you get, they may be dual hatted, right? They may be like, hey, well, in campus season, I go to campus, but right now I'm an experienced hire recruiter. So you might get that, right? So just be cognizant of the size of the company you're talking to. Smaller companies, they you know, one recruiter could be handling all three. In 1 minute, they're talking to a veteran that they're going to hire 5 vets and train them in X. In the next minute, they're an experienced hire recruiter looking for the exact role. So that is all fine to ask. I think your status and what you see online will help kind of dictate who you're probably going to be talking to. You probably can really decipher the campus process very quickly. The experienced hire in the veteran bucket, if you can't see the nomenclature in their signature or their title, I think it's all well and good to say, hey, am I going to be part of a veteran type program cohort? Then you know you're with that veteran recruiting team. Or, hey, are you really looking at me for a very specific one-off role that I happen to match apples to apples? You know, then you're probably being looked at through that experienced hire bucket.
Awesome.
Kevin, I got a question from Stephanie. She asked, can you expand on how to apply via a referral? Because you're talking about don't apply online and, you know, work that referral. And you may have said it, but Stephanie probably understands better. I'm a little lost as well. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be as specific as, hey, you found the position online and you got the job title and the job number, and you can share that with the referral and say, hey, John Smith, you're a vet, you're Navy, I was Navy, can we talk? You talk, hey, can I get 2 more names in your company? Awesome. Then you're done. You maybe got 2-3 people minimum. Then one group emailed all 3 of them. Here's the job title, the job number. I'm about to apply online, but before I did so, I was thinking maybe you guys can refer me to the recruiter first and put me in touch with him or her. That is how I'd go about getting a referral. Now,
okay.
there is
so Okay. Just the naming of it, applying via referral. It's internally you're talking to them, they end up pushing it over, and then it comes to you. Okay.
Exactly right.
It's
Yeah, and
definitely
then maybe there is no job number, right? Maybe there is no position, no title, nothing on the board that you like, but you're like, you know what, I want to get into logistics. And you talk to somebody at Coca-Cola, and you talk to then two more people, and then you finally talk to some logistics people, and you're ready. You're like, all right, I want to apply, but there's nothing in logistics. You reach out to them and you say, hey, I'm not seeing anything immediate on the job board in logistics, but can you guys give me a referral into your lead logistics recruiter, and put me in contact with him or her? Now all of a sudden you got 7 people referring you into the right department. It's not a specific position, but now you've established rapport with the right recruiter, and you've done it in a way that's lending credibility to your candidacy. Does that help whoever was out there? Hopefully.
I think that's an awesome one. And I think, you know, to your point, you've got it listed as referrals, right? And what I'll just remind everybody is referrals are really relationships that you already have built with people before you need to ask for a job. And so again, people ask me, hey, does LinkedIn pay you to promote them? No, they don't. But I have seen amazing things come from building relationships with people through that platform, so that then you can get the referral. Again, you can use the search tool to find the right people, but then you can get the referral when you need it. Hey, we've got a question. Oh, this is a good one, Kevin. And this is a little bit different question. And I think this is a good one because we hear a lot about PMP certificates. So is PMP a significant certificate to have? Seems to be a new thing I've been seeing on a lot of profiles. Can you talk that a little bit?
And every company is going to have a different answer on kind of what that cert is, right? And how meaningful that's going to be, depending where they're going to put you. The pause you hear in my voice is, even at Deloitte, sometimes when we get the job request and they're like, hey, we want to hire 5 vets, sometimes they say, hey, that PMT is going to be good. So that's going to help put folks in. We want to filter and query on that to start. Let's see how big that pool is. And sometimes they're like, no, they're not even going to need to leverage that. We can hire 5 veterans this time. We don't need it. Where we're going to put them, the type of positions they're going to be utilized in, it is not even a thought. So it really truly depends. And if it depends in Deloitte's eyes, coming just from one employer, you can imagine the response you're going to get if you post 500 of the Fortune 500. It depends what type of role where they're going to put you on the back end. Here's what I think. I think it demonstrates a lot. I think if you have time and you can knock out a PMP and you can get that, I think it demonstrates self-initiative. It demonstrates investment in yourself. And a lot of those, you know, they're core skills that can be highly applicable across a wide range of roles. So if you're debating and going to get it because if a company's going to use it or not, maybe look at it more through the lens of this might not align for a specific position, but it's just going to better enhance and make me more efficient in what I do. And I can tell a different story when I'm in the interview room on it.
Great. It's awesome.
Yes, good. I was a project manager specifically a project manager at Dell, and I did not have a PMP cert, but I was a project manager for deployments at Lockheed. They did talk about it, how it would be nice to have, but certain programs work quick. We did deployments with multiple companies. Like I'd have 40 different companies that I'd have to manage at a given time. So there wasn't a lot of, you know, massive projects that you had to deal with. They'd take about 3 months. So it was quicker turnover, which means there's just less planning. Yeah, the more time you spend putting, you know, Gantt charts together, the project's over and you just lost the job. You just got fired. So it was looked at as a really big positive. So if you do have time, that is my experience. I'm not really qualified to give advice like Kevin, but my experience was that they did appreciate those that did have it. We probably had half our project managers at Dell, at least the enterprise deployment team that had their PMP cert.
It's funny that you say that because there's now another question coming in. How about the SHRM CP certification? And here's what I'll say to people. Like, I feel like there's kind of these hot certifications that come around. Certification, exactly to both Kevin's points. It's certainly a good thing, right? It's never going to hurt you. I just think it's always important. There's two things that I think are really important. Number one, if you're trying to figure out if a certification is a requirement for a job, go look at job descriptions. And if it's a nice to have versus requirement, that'll give you some insight. The other thing, I think it's really important. Nobody's going to give you a job just because of a certificate. And so all the things that Kevin is sharing around understanding the process, leveraging referrals are all still really important. Kevin, do you want to talk about certificates in general?
Yeah, I think Kevin used the right term, nice to have, or I heard that, nice to have from somebody. They are, right? Same thing, MBA. Hey, Kevin, open up these 5 positions. And I'll ask, grad degree required, MBA, master's, and they're nice to have. If they got it, cool. But no, we can roll without it. So there's a lot of things that will be nice to haves, and then there's going to be times where it's like, yeah, I need that MBA or I need that SHRM. From week 1, we're going to need them to leverage that. So if you're fighting to something long-term, bigger term, and eventually in your career path and in your trajectory, it's going to flip from nice to have to needed, then get it and go crush it while you got time and you got minutes. If you're going to a trajectory or a career path that as you play the chessboard, it's always going to remain nice to have, then I say, continue to weigh it and see the pros and cons.
Kenny, can I add? So there's a couple questions in here. One of them is, it's anonymous, but how should a veteran with a technical degree leverage their service experience if it's not a technical field? And there's kind of some questions. One of the things I want to point out, I'm qualified to answer that question specifically, and I'll use myself as an example, is my degree was in philosophy, and I left the military as a sniper. And my experience I didn't have a ton of experience, but I ended up getting a role at Lockheed based off of some of the, training. With a lot of engineers, they don't like to talk. They're not good with being in front of people. So there happened to be an Army program that was open. I understood the language. I understood all the acronyms, and I was able to speak in front of people. And I had some experience with the technical, but not a lot. So I got brought on as a customer trainer, kind of an IT trainer, using their weapon systems. And they're not kinetic weapon systems, it's all Intel. But from there, I was able to, once I got into the company, and this is really what I want to point out, because I didn't understand this, I wasn't in the market, is I started doing IT training, and then I started doing testing. I started doing rack and stack of servers. I ended up, becoming a deployment project manager. So we'd go on site and I would run a team of people. So I started out as probably the lowest level, outside of scraping floors at Lockheed. As far as from their eyes, to me, it was a great opportunity. But from there, I didn't realize there was all these other roles that they're kind of technical, from a distance, but it's like you can learn them while you're with the program. It's like there's things out there that me personally, I just simply didn't understand. The same way if you join a fire team, I didn't, you've got, all these, a rifleman, you've got a saw gunner, you've got, 203s, you've got gun teams, you've got all these different groups, you got mortars. Before I enlisted, I knew that people shot stuff around, but I didn't know the details of it. I didn't understand the particulars. And I think just keeping in mind, there's a lot of roles out there. In my head, you're either a fireman, a policeman, a doctor. There's like 5 jobs in the world, but I didn't quite understand the nuance with each company and each project. There's just a massive team of people. And when you get in, you may not really enjoy what you're doing, but there's always a lot more opportunity. And there's a lot of jobs like, I didn't know that existed. And then you can, because you're in, you have time to maybe get the certification to get there. So part of what I'm communicating is if you see something that's at a decent company that has some stability, there's a lot of opportunity once you get into these companies. Obviously, we're talking about how do you get into the company first? But I want to point out that it may not be a perfect fit as you're looking for these roles, but these big companies have a lot of just roles that you may not know existed. I didn't know existed, and they were fun jobs, So, and it helps you kind of move up the ladder. So, anyway, a little bit of a monologue there, but
That's great.
just FYI.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a ton of value in playing chess, and getting into the company to move around. And there's many of you that are out there that don't match any of the 3 filters. Trust me, I see it all the time. And the beauty of that and the fun of that is, you can get inside a company, and to the individual that asked the question, technology undergrad, but then didn't use it, you're going to lose every time in the experienced hire bucket, every time. There's civilians that got the technology degree and then went and used it and have 5 years of experience or 10 years. That's who you're competing against, right? Let's not kid ourselves. But maybe the veteran recruiting bucket works for you, right? And you can use it. And maybe they don't put you in the tech department you wanted, but to Kevin's point, you're in now. I've laterally transferred in Deloitte 4 times in 10 years on my own, 4 times. You can move about inside a company at will, right? Find those roles, play chess. So if you get your dream position out of the gate, awesome, good on you. If you got to think outside the box a little bit and take a different pipeline to get you inside, awesome too. Let's say the vet, the tech guy and anybody that had an undergrad degree, didn't get to use it, and they're not experienced hire fit, and you don't fit the veteran recruiting bucket, get a referral. Get a referral into a position to where you just can start where you're close, right? And those referrals will work for you. Somebody will talk to somebody in the company. You get enough people that are impressed by your candidacy, they'll pick up the phone and they'll talk to you, and they'll realize you're 80% there, and they'll carve out a new position for you.
Awesome. You guys, we are almost at the end of our time. Kevin, we have a lot of Kevins today. Deloitte Kevin, my Kevin. I just want to say thank you both. Kevin, thank you for just sharing a little bit about your personal journey. Kevin Whirity, what you've kind of pulled the covers back on, I think is super, super, super helpful for folks here. Thank you so much for being here with us. Guys, we have a couple of minutes left, and as promised, I have a $50 Amazon gift card to give away. And so for those of you that were on last week, you have an advantage. And hopefully you'll join us again next week, and then you'll have an advantage next week. But here is the question. So everybody that is on with us live right now has an opportunity to win the $50 gift card. Here's what you need to do. In the Q&A box, you need to be the first one to answer this question correctly. And the question is, last week on the Amazon Military Affairs call, the question was asked by somebody if they've applied to multiple roles at Amazon, what happens? And what Bo Higgins shared was the Amazon system tracks blank number and only holds blank number of applications for any one person at a time. So whoever knows the answer to that question, put it in the Q&A box and I'll send you the $50 gift card. The first person that can answer how many, good, nice, all right. Lots of folks were on the call, I love it. Guys, Amazon system holds 1 application, and I specifically picked this question because I will often hear from people, oh, I applied to 5 roles at Amazon, I haven't heard back on any of them yet. The reality is only the last one is tracked. Now, I don't know if that's specific to Amazon. Kevin, if you'd like to jump in on that, but the point is applying blindly to lots of roles is not going to serve you well. You definitely want to be strategic. So it looks like the first person that answered that question is Jenmo Lee. I've got that right. Thank you so much, and I will email you the gift card. Kevin, do you want to just make any points about that for other companies?
No, I think that's great. I'm glad Amazon said that. Yeah, applying online. I haven't heard that, but it helps our cause as veterans, and it pushes veterans and motivates veterans in our community to navigate away from that HR online system, and go for the human interaction, go impress folks. It's a little bit bigger of a lift. I get it. It's an extra couple hours that week, but trust me, it's worth it. So I'll just say kudos to Amazon for presenting that, and I hope they continue to pump that message.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So everybody, I'm going to give you back 6 minutes of your day. Again, Kevin, thank you so much for being here with us. To everybody on the call, listen, your time is the most important thing that you have. We really appreciate you spending the last hour and a half with us. Again, we are here every Thursday, 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific, from now until middle of December. And so again, don't forget to follow 50 Strong. Join us. Again, next week is all about DoD Skill Bridge. The following week is Microsoft and Tech Systems. Again, thank you to all of our series sponsors and our 4 university partners. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you. See you, Kevin.
Guys, thanks for attending.